What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Athletes to Athletes podcast. On today's episode, I talk with Noah Henderson, who is a recent Furman graduate who saw his college art project depicting his friends as different mental health struggles get a lot of attention on social media. He talks about his collegiate journey as well as some of the battles he faced as an athlete and how he is continuing his path as an artist. So hopefully you enjoyed today's conversation. And as always, I appreciate you listening to the A2A podcast. So welcome back to the Athletes to Athletes podcast, and today I'm sitting down with Noah, and Noah has a really interesting story because he's got a little bit of a different background and the things that he is into and how he expresses himself, and kind of what drew us to him was his artwork, which we'll get into. But before we even dive into Noah's story, I want to give Noah the chance to introduce himself, let us know where he's from, and a little bit about him.
Hey, I'm Noah from Nashville, Tennessee. I've lived here about my whole life. I went to Christ Presbyterian Academy and ended up playing football basically from when I was 10 years old up until high school, and I wanted to play in college, and ended up at University of North Carolina, Charlotte, and then ended up transferring to Furman, where I played my last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I just graduated.
Nice. So you said that, you started playing football when you were about 10 years old. What was the influence behind, lacing up the cleats? And, was it an older sibling, or were you just kind of drawn to the sport?
No, I was definitely drawn to it. I remember growing up, my favorite video game was all the NCAAs, and I loved playing those and always knew I wanted to play. And I think when I was 10 years old, my first year, my parents made me start off with flag football because they didn't want me to go straight into the full pads yet.
Yeah. You quickly probably outgrew that. You ended up being a tight end in college. So once you started kind of really getting into football, did you also play any other sports, or was football really your main thing?
Growing up, I played baseball, and up until around I was 12, I played some basketball, but all throughout high school, it was just football, and then I ran track in the spring. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I focused on football. I think around freshman year, really, once I started playing high school, is when I kind of knew that I wanted to play in college and started focusing just on football.
Yeah. What was it about football that really pulled you in? Obviously some people are watching it and they're like, man, I want to get to the NFL someday, or some people are playing and they discover how much they love it. Was there any specific time that you can remember where you're like, football is my sport and this is where I belong?
I would say definitely my first time playing for my actual school was my 7th grade year. Was my first year actually at CPA as well. I repeated 7th grade for mostly sports reasons and felt a calling to go to CPA and ended up there. And my first year there, I just fell in love with the game even more. Just with the biggest thing was just the teammates and the relationships I built.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So as you said that, once you started to progress in the sport, it was something that you knew you wanted to do at the next level. How did you start to kind of focus on football, right? Was it kind of digging into the athleticism part of it? Was it hitting the gym a little bit more? Did you start looking at colleges where where your coach is involved? How did you start to really invest in yourself to make it to college football?
I'd say the biggest thing, really the biggest aspect of help I had was from my high school head coach. Actually, he was very connected and was very good at promoting players, and he was realistic too. He knew how good we actually were and what level he actually saw us playing at. And as far as the weight room, I didn't really start lifting until high school, and that's when definitely started seeing a lot of changes, going through the weight room and just throughout the whole year, even if it was in season, out of season, going at least once or twice a week to go run routes with my quarterback. And just trying to put in as much work as I possibly could.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned your coach and how he was really realistic. And there's some guys that, they're like, no, I want to go Division 1. I got to go to a big school. Did you have any sort of thoughts or aspirations like that? Or, did you take his word and say, I'm going to be realistic and know where I want to go and know where I fit?
I mean, I would take his word, but at the same time, my whole goal, I wanted to play at the biggest school possible, and I wanted to play in the biggest stadium that I possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my aspiration, was to play Power Five, which ended up not working out. I mean, I had a few FBS offers, ended up at Charlotte, and I definitely, the whole high school recruiting aspect of it was definitely a kind of a roller coaster, but I think that he was realistic with me, and I ended up at a place where I should be.
Yeah. How was it? How was it kind of a roller coaster, right? Like obviously you have a ton of schools that are going to be reaching out from a bunch of different levels and you have boxes that you want to check. But how was it a roller coaster as you put it? How was it a roller coaster for you?
Well, I mean, it was kind of all over the place. Just I'd have schools recruiting me. Had multiple, like 4 or 5 big Power Five schools that had been talking to me and my coach, and they said we'd love to offer him. Just want to see what type of 40 he runs. And I remember my junior year summer, I went to all 4 of those camps and ran anywhere from a 4.48 to a 4.5 flat, and that was exactly what they're looking for. And I'd go there. Never got anything back from those coaches. I went to, I remember Cal Berkeley told me, if you just come to our camp, do what you've been doing, we're going to offer you. I went, won the MVP of the whole camp. Never heard from them again. So it was just kind of all over the place. I had a lot of schools, which that's the business aspect of it that I learned the ugly side of, which is the sad truth of it. But a lot of it is just, you'll hear a lot of stuff that the coaches will say, but in the reality is they don't really mean all of that.
Hmm. Yeah. How did you deal with that? Obviously, you say you're going to camps, you're doing all the right things, but you're not hearing back. Was that hard for you to deal with? And how did you kind of cope with that and figure out where you needed to go?
It was definitely, it was really hard. That spring of my senior year, I didn't commit until winter, and I did the late signing day to go to Charlotte. And I really, up until Charlotte offered me, I had no idea where I wanted to go. And I felt like I was being screwed over, which, I mean, that's just how I feel like any high schooler would view it, is that everyone else is to blame. When I would, I definitely struggled, but in the end of it, at the end of the day, I mean, I think a big help with my parents is stuff they tell me is just, regardless, I'm getting my school paid for and I've earned multiple scholarship offers. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
Hmm. So, you said that you wanted to play in the biggest stadium that you could at the biggest school that you could. Did location matter? I mean, I know that a lot of different athletes, they're always looking to, maybe stay close to home. You're from, Tennessee. Was, maybe going to Tennessee, was that ever a possibility or ever a thought for you? Or were you really just, I'm going to go where I have the best opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had a preference to stay as close to home as possible, but yeah, at the end of the day, I was really willing to go anywhere. I mean, I'd been for a long time thought I was going to Stanford, so the location kind of mattered, but not really. I just cared about the football and the actual stadium, which very quickly learned that that's not where you should be prioritizing things.
Hmm. Now the academic side of it is also a pretty big thing, right? And you have to balance that obviously when you get to college. Did you feel that once you ended up, going to Charlotte, that the academic side was an easier transition, or was it all just kind of hard coming in as a freshman and trying to figure out and navigate being a student athlete now away from home?
It was definitely a really big change, especially, I mean, the class load was about what I was expecting, but that on top of the extremely heavy football schedule, it was a lot. I mean, my freshman year, my first semester actually, I ended up with all A's, and remember I had no free time whatsoever. I mean, that was one of the more stressful semesters of my college experience. And then ended up at Furman. Then COVID hit, and then all of the school stuff was just kind of a mess after that.
Hmm. Now, you mentioned that it was was tough coming in. Did you what type of resources did you have when you got there that could kind of help with that balance of being a student athlete? And, did you seek out any of these resources, or were you just like, I'm just going to have to figure this out?
Yeah, a lot of it is I kind of had that mindset that I had to be tough, and that's just what everyone was going through. And I kind of felt like it was wrong almost to ask for help or to reach out to people, and just wanted to try to handle things on my own and just push through and deal with it. But I definitely looked through my parents a lot, and just a couple of close friends would be my go-to people just whenever I needed someone to talk to.
Hmm. So, you have your freshman year at UNC Charlotte, and then you end up transferring. What went into you wanting to transfer, and how did you make that decision?
My first football year or whatever, my first semester at Charlotte, definitely. I mean, I like the school, like the city, but I just, as far as the team and the environment and the culture, I just didn't fit in with the team. I didn't really find myself having too many friends. It's not even that I didn't get along with them. It was just a different environment for me, and I don't know. I felt out of place. The coaches were not exactly what I was expecting based on the appearance that I got before actually going there, which, and I feel like that can be the case for a lot of schools. But
Hmm.
yeah, the biggest thing was I just felt like it wasn't the right fit for me, and as far as the entire culture of the team and the coaching staff, it just didn't feel like the right fit.
Yeah. So how'd you make the decision on Furman? And were there any schools that you had talked to during your initial recruiting process that had reached out and wanted you to, transfer to their school?
Yeah, so actually it was the end of winter break. I got back my first night back at Charlotte, and I had an anxiety the whole winter break of having to go back. Was just really dreading going back to school. And that first night back, I called my parents and I was like, "Look, I don't know where I'm going to go, but I got to get out of here. This isn't the place for me, and I can't be here anymore." And actually, one of my best friends, my teammates in high school, he was at Furman, and I had gone up there once or twice and visited them, met a couple of the guys on the team, and just even that one night, just had a great time and felt more in place than I did my whole first semester at Charlotte. I actually called him. I was like, "Hey man, I think I'm going to transfer. What are the odds that they'd have a spot for me?" And he ended up reaching out to the OC because Furman had recruited me in high school, and
Hmm.
my head coach actually played at Furman, so he was very connected to Furman. And long story short, they ended up having money for me, had his place. I hadn't even seen any of the facilities, locker room, anything, met any of the coaches, and I just decided I'm going to transfer and go there. And about 3 days later, I was moving out and moving into Furman. It was kind of just a really extreme change of events, change of scenery, and it just kind of all happened out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it was one of
So,
those things I just trusted my gut and just went with it.
yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to, right? When you feel like there's a better place for you, you have to, pack up and go and not really waste any time. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. And, a lot of students, they will say, the athletic aspect of it didn't work, or the academic aspect of it didn't work. You said you had all A's in that first semester at Charlotte, but did you declare a major that year, or were you kind of general studies? I know, you're an artist and you're looking to be a professional artist. Was art what you got into when you were there, or was it something different?
No, when I got there, I had no idea what I wanted to really do with my life, and really, I didn't actually establish an art major until my junior year, which up until then, I'd kind of planned on doing accounting just to get a solid degree and
Mm.
get something that I could kind of go multiple routes with. But yeah, when I was at Charlotte, especially, I had zero idea what I wanted to do and didn't take any art classes, and that wasn't even anything I'd really considered until it was my junior year. I was an accounting major, and I was talking to my parents like, "Look, there's no way I'm ever going to be an accountant. And, like, I'm wasting my time with these classes. I have no idea what they're teaching me, and I hate it." And I ended up talking to them. I was like, I've always loved art, and I really want to just go for it. And I focused on graphic design to try to play a safer route to as far as having a reliable education that could make me some money and get a reliable job. So that was my focus. That was kind of my plan, was to do that. And then the whole reason I planned on doing that was I was going to do the grad program at Furman,
Mm-hmm.
which that ended up not working out either, but that's completely fine.
Yeah. So you end up becoming an art major, and you have the graphic design that you're looking into. How did it all kind of pan out? You just finished school. What's your degree in? And how did it kind of end up for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, my degree was studio art, and within that, I focused on graphic design, and I just graduated, I guess, 5 weeks ago. And my plans originally were to try to see if I could make a living making drawings, paintings, but maybe go get a job at a graphic design agency, just get a standard, reliable form of income going. And I think it was maybe early March, my dad actually texted me. He was like, "Hey, this guy at my work wants to know if you could paint some murals for us." And I've never painted a mural. I mean, I don't really paint as much as I draw, but like, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely willing to give it a shot. And been doing that for the past month. I'm about to finish up my third mural in this little town called Petersburg, and maybe doing a fourth for him. But so far, it's going well. While I was working, I had some other lady come and introduce herself, and she was in a town about 15 minutes away. So we're in the works of finalizing some stuff. So I'll be painting two more murals for them after this. So I'm trying to see if I can keep this rolling.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, and has you said you've always loved art. Was it something that you did in high school, or did you kind of just were you one of those people? My brother's a pretty good artist as well. He just used to doodle on everything. Now, he's created tattoos for me, and created his own tattoos and stuff like that. Was that your style back then, and then you really got into it when you were in college, or were you really part of art classes and art groups when you were growing up?
So growing up, I mean, I would take a few classes here and there, just some stuff my parents would send me and my sister to, or my mom, because my mom actually, she's a painter. She's been a big inspiration for my art. But no, growing up as a kid, I was just always drawing, doodling, whether it's in church service, I was drawing on the envelopes in front of the pews, or at school, just doodling in my notebook, or any type of opportunity to do something creative. I was really big into airsoft. I would take my guns apart and spray paint them to try to get different camouflages on them. I mean, I was just always any opportunity I had, I was trying to draw, paint, just do something. I mean, that's just something I really enjoyed. And in art for high school, I would take a few classes, and then I took a AP class my senior year, and that was kind of my first, not super rigorous, but actual art class where I had to put in a lot more time and effort. And I mean, I loved that. And it wasn't until I guess, yeah, saw end of sophomore year, early junior year that I started taking classes at Furman, and just immediately was so much happier and actually got to enjoy what I was doing.
Hmm. So now there's been kind of a when you started your art, there's kind of a theme behind it, and there's kind of a reason behind it. What was that reason behind your artwork, once you started taking classes, and how you utilize your artwork to kind of, as kind of a therapeutic type of thing?
Yeah, so as far as it being therapeutic, I've had people ask me like if it's the more work I'm having to do, and with these murals and with it being an actual job, like, well, it's got to be exhausting. But thing is, I mean, it's the most therapeutic part of my day and most relaxing part of my day. I mean, there'd be Friday, Saturday nights, I would go into my art studio and just work on a drawing just because it would help me relax, and was a nice break from reality. And kind of the theme you were talking about, that was for my senior seminar class. We had to spend the whole semester. We started off in the summer researching a concept we wanted to, and we had to create any type of medium, but create some pieces that portrayed a message that was important to us. And I struggled thinking of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to represent. At first, my kind of plans were to do the highs and lows of college football and try to capture the variety of emotions. But then I kind of hit me that I've seen how mental health and college football, how it really impacted me, and how just about anyone else I know that's played the sport in college, how it's impacted them as well. And I saw it as a great opportunity to make some drawings that could actually have a voice and a message behind them. And so that's what I decided to do, was to make 6 drawings that focused on different aspects that can affect a guy's mental health while playing college football. And it kind of can relate to any sport, I guess, at that point.
Mm-hmm. And what were those 6 drawings depicting?
So the 6 that I chose to use were kind of stuff that I felt impacted me and my friends the most, and that was insomnia or any type of sleep disorder, sleep issue, forced weight gain, and body dysmorphia, verbal harassment or just verbal abuse from coaches, the lack of social experiences and stereotype that you get from classmates. Injuries was one that I definitely focused on, and then the last one was the mental stress that can be caused from trying to live up to expectations that are higher just because of the way you view your parents or your coaches or friends.
Mm-hmm. And how did your surroundings, your friends, your parents, your siblings, how did everybody react to this, and how, what was their response to your artwork?
My all my teammates, so all the drawings besides one of them, I used my actual teammates as models and would take pictures. And at first, it was kind of, they thought it was kind of funny just seeing my friends, seeing me draw my friends and take pictures with them and stuff. And but then they started realizing the actual message, and a lot of my teammates have been extremely appreciative of my work and have felt very represented, and they've really appreciated what I've done with it. Mm-hmm. It's been really cool to see those reactions and see how many people have realized that it's very normal to experience what they're going through.
Yeah. And what were there any other anyone else that kind of reached out to you about these drawings, or was it more of your immediate circle that kind of picked up on everything that you were doing?
No, it was definitely just my immediate circle and more of my actual teammates. And these drawings I actually did last fall during my season, and they really didn't catch attention until about a month ago. I reposted them on TikTok and Instagram and just did a video of all of them together. And I hadn't really posted. I still was growing my social media, still am trying to do that. But yeah, it wasn't until about a month ago the videos took off, and that's when it's really reached a lot of other people. And I mean, it's been really cool seeing. I've seen hundreds of people commented talking about how individual drawings, different aspects have impacted them or represented something very specific in their life and in their college experience. It's been really cool to see that and see all the engagement that I've got.
Yeah. Now, you said that you were working on these during your season, and it was a really calming thing for you to be able to go into your studio and work on these things. And did you see the impact that it had on you as you were working on them? And was it kind of a release for you to go out and perform then as a football player, as you were able to get your mind away and kind of focus on something that was outside of your sport?
Yeah, for me, it was extremely relaxing, and my senior year did not go at all how I intended. I was basically injured the entire year, so I really didn't get to play at all my senior year, my last season. So in a way, it was a way for me to go kind of just let all of those raw emotions out through my art, and was a way to get away. Which, while I was still drawing stuff related to football, it was a good way for me to release my emotions and to kind of just all that anger and anxiety that had been built up, and it gave me a canvas to put it onto and kind of release it all. And it was very relaxing, and definitely it really helped kind of keep me calm and keep me sane, because it was a rough semester, and it was really hard, especially senior year, just not getting to have anything go your way. But it is what it is, and I learned the most out of this year alone.
Hmm.
So I mean, I don't have any regrets for that, and it's just my body couldn't take it.
Yeah, I mean it happens. Everybody has to deal with injuries, and unfortunately for us football players, you kind of deal with them the rest of your life. You get these bumps and bruises, and your knees and your shoulders, and you ache waking up sometimes, and but it's things that you just deal with, right? But
Yeah.
on that mental side of things, you said that it was a way for you to relax and get your anxiety kind of under control. With mental health being such a huge thing in sports these days, have you gotten any attention from the mental health community about how you decided to cope with these things, and was it really ever a thought for you to kind of dig into the mental health side of it with how you were utilizing artwork?
Originally, no, I kind of just planned on doing those drawings, and then I was just doing them for my project. And I mean, something I had to do for class. And the more I got into it, the more I realized the opportunity I did have and the platform I was given. And it wasn't until those videos kind of blew up that I've seen people from all different age groups around the world, different sports, all feeling very represented. And definitely, it's been something that I want to continue doing. And I want to reach out and find different people from all different sports and use them to and use my art as a way to represent their story and tell their story and allow them to have voices. And that's been something I've been wanting to do was definitely try to make another series revolving around all athletes, not just football.
Like I said, mental health is huge these days, right? Everybody is really looking into taking care of their mental health and making sure that they're doing all the right things when it comes to mental health. Have you ever considered maybe working with a sports psychologist to kind of utilize your artwork, or offering up your expertise for some of the clients that they have or some of the people that they work with, to show them that utilizing art, or doing something such as artwork, can help kind of cope with these things?
I've never really thought about it to that extreme. I mean, that would definitely be something that I would love the opportunity to do and would be very willing to do that. One thing I've been really considering doing is making a whole series revolving around all athletes and using those pieces to start a fundraiser and sell prints, sell original pieces, and send all those profits into some mental health organization that I end up going with. And I think that could be a really cool way to raise money for a really good cause and bring a lot of attention because I think it's I think what made people really appreciate it is you just don't really see art and football kind of flow together into that mental health aspect. And like I said, I think it could be a really cool platform to kind of represent a lot more people than I've been able to with just those first original six drawings.
Hmm. I mean, hopefully, we continue to see your artwork in a lot of different places. And like I said, you're making a really huge impact, and it obviously caught our eye, and it's why we reached out to you, and we really wanted you to come on and kind of speak about it. Now, as I mentioned, this is the portion that we call 5 questions. And so it's going to be 5 random questions that I have for you, or it's going to be both art related and both sports related. So the first one is, what's a memorable game that you played in that had a really big impact on
I'd say probably my very first football game, college football game, we played Gardner Webb at Charlotte, and that was I'd say my most memorable was my true freshman year, my first time ever being on the field, and ended up having a really good college debut. Had about 6 catches for about 60, 70 yards, but the most biggest thing I remember, two biggest things, was I was on kickoff, started on kickoff, and ended up letting up a touchdown because I didn't contain my guy, and that was one of the worst rippings I've ever gotten. The meeting after that, we'll never forget that. And then also I caught I think my third catch of the game, caught a little bubble screen, and got lit up on the sideline. And that was kind of my welcome to college football movement. But I remember getting up and laughing and seeing my teammates laughing at me, and I ended up thinking it was hilarious.
That's pretty cool. Who's somebody that you always looked up to as a young athlete that really kind of you pinpointed and you said, that's somebody that I kind of would like to emulate?
Yeah, there were definitely a few guys when I was a freshman in high school. There were a few seniors that ended up going to play, and they kind of were big mentors for me. They were seniors when I was freshman, and they saw the potential that a lot of me and my friends had, and were very willing to help us, to work with us, and kind of showed us what a real leader looks like. And I don't know, that had a really big impact on me, seeing a bigger, older guy that's going to go play college football, taking the time out of his day to work with younger kids and try to help actual other players improve their craft and take their own time out of the day. I mean, I thought that was really special. And then also, my dad has been a huge impact and huge help in my life. I mean, he played college baseball, but he's always been my number one supporter, and he's just poured everything into anything I'm passionate about. I mean, I've been very appreciative and can't thank him enough for the stuff he's done for me.
Mm-hmm. And from an art perspective, what's a style of artwork that kind of caught your eye and made you want to be an artist?
Definitely the hyperrealism and just some of those drawings you'll see that look identical to a photo, and that was I remember as good as I was always pretty good for my age, and definitely a lot better than most kids my age. But I'd see some of these artists creating things that looked so real, and it just amazed me that they were able to make stuff and out of just pencils and paint and make it look that realistic. That's something that really drew me in. I mean, I'd say that's not all my pieces. I strive to make them hyper realistic, but I definitely that's been a big motivation, is to try to create something that looks as real as some of these other people are doing.
Mm-hmm. What's one of your pieces that you're most proud of?
Uh, I'd say I did this massive drawing of I don't know if you're familiar with the game God of War.
Mm-hmm.
It's a PlayStation game, but Kratos in that game, the main character, I did a massive drawing of him. It took me about probably 40 or 50 hours, and that's definitely by far the most proud piece I am, or that I have.
Mm-hmm. So with everything that you've learned and you're just 5 months out of college, what's a piece of advice, something that maybe somebody told you, maybe it was one of those upperclassmen that you said was very influential, or maybe it was your dad who's been supporting you, but what's a piece of advice that has really resonated with you, that is something that kind of sticks with you?
I'd say the biggest thing is just hearing from friends or teammates, and I think it's something that a lot of people need to know, especially in college football, is that it's okay not to be okay. And I don't know, I feel like it was always, obviously, it was kind of hard for me to open up about what I was really going through, and quickly realized that just about any other guy will feel that same way. And I don't know, just through few conversations I'd end up having just with some teammates or friends, and hearing them going through the same thing and expressing and showing how much they really care, it kind of just helped me understand and realize that there's nothing wrong with being upset, and it's okay to not be okay, but it's kind of just all that really matters is how you handle it and how you respond, and persevering through that. And I'd say the biggest thing I learned is how much impact it can have just simply asking someone if they're okay and just being there for a friend. I remember my last season after a game, was sitting on the sideline. I was injured and very upset, back in my room, and one of my roommates came in, and literally all he did was just stop by and just say, "Hey man, are you okay?" And of course I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." But just the fact that he took the time and effort to go out of his way to come in and just check on me, I don't think he realized how much that meant to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, this has been a really great conversation. Before I let you go, I want you to let everybody know, what your social handles are, how they can find you, and how they can check out your artwork.
Yeah, so my TikTok and Instagram is noahhenderson.art. And then that's my main way of spreading my art as of now. I've got a website in the works, some other stuff, but definitely a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things come together.
Yeah. Well, like I said, no, this has been great. I'm really glad that you took some time to, tell us about your artwork and kind of let us know what's been going on and how you went about all of these things. It's really amazing. And I've been following you on social media and seeing the different artwork and things like that you've come up with. It's really, really cool. Again, I really appreciate you coming on and describing all of it and talking about your story and kind of, being available to us and just opening up. So I really appreciate it. And hopefully you can continue to create really cool artwork, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Athletes to Athletes podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. To engage with everything the A2A platform has to offer, go to the App Store and search Athletes to Athletes to download our new app. You can check out our educational material, and you'll ensure that you don't miss when a new episode of the A2A podcast drops. Again, thank you for listening. We'll see you again next time.